The artist's brain is an independent variable. When brought into the everyday world, their senses find meaning in even the most mundane observations. The reaction must only be told by the artists themselves. I'm Loverboy, and this is an experiment. Today's guest is a singer, songwriter, and artist who at a young age made their way from Florida to Los Angeles, California. Starting on a high note with his band, The Pink Slips, he found the opportunity to tour the world, and with no sign of slowing down, he's coming out with his debut album for his new solo project, and that's coming out on April 8th. Please welcome today's guest, Trent Peltz.
Hell yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We've been trying to make this happen for a little bit, and I'm really excited to not only get to have you on the podcast, but we got to jam a bit. And every time I've seen you, I think I've seen you play twice now, definitely once. And you have a very similar way of going about your stage presence as you do just being with people, which is like just a very comfortable, fun. You always seem like you're having a good time.
I try.
So it's cool to see that that's not like that's how you do everything in your life. That's from my perspective, from how the few times I've got to meet you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely try to live with a, kindred young light spirit.
I love
think
it.
it's really important,
So tell me a little bit about you. You started off in Florida.
Yep.
What part?
St. Petersburg, so really close to Tampa.
Killer.
And moved out here when I was 10. Was really, really creative from a really early age. Knew like almost every Beatles song by the time I was like 8, and all Elvis songs, and would dress up to go to the grocery store, and sing in the cart, and do Elvis impersonations. So Florida wasn't the right place for me.
Did you have were your parents into music or into the arts at all?
Not really at all. My dad owns shoe businesses, and so very much so not in the arts at all.
Yeah.
He's pretty just straight up Floridian guy, great guy, but very Floridian.
So where'd you get the music from?
It's a great question. I just started out really wanting to do, like dance and musical theater when I was around 6. And one of my sisters, I have two older sisters, one of them was also really creative from a young age, was a great like opera singer actually at a young age. So that kind of inspired me. My mom was very supportive of it. And so she, just wanted to help us out in any way possible, found all the outlets, the minimal outlets that there were in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Totally.
And by the time we got to I was 10, my sisters were a little older. She realized, okay, like this is not the right place for my children.
Totally.
And we took a little trial run in LA when I was 10 and immediately got an agent. It was originally for just acting.
Killer.
And
so you started acting.
Yeah, started out acting, booked a commercial right away, a Gushers commercial. So my head blew up into
Wild.
giant fruit. So that was fun. And it immediately was like, okay, like, wow, LA is the place.
Yeah.
And then quickly carried over into wanting to do music, and even a better place for that. So
when you came out here to act, did you have any signs of doing music at all? Or were you not really looking to do that as a profession?
Yeah, no. When I was definitely still really musical, like to sing. But basically when I was around 8, my mom put me into classical piano lessons, like a lot of young children.
Yeah.
And I hated it. Absolutely hated it. All I wanted to play was Let It Be by the Beatles, and like my teacher wouldn't teach me it.
Yeah.
So I'd rip up my, practice books and stuff like that. Was really anti playing the instruments, or at least classical music.
Yeah.
But I moved out here, and for the first like 8-9 months, wasn't really doing anything musical. Then started liking a girl in 5th grade, and
wrote some songs for her.
And her surprise birthday party was coming up, and I wanted to surprise her with a song. So I pulled out my old keyboard, wrote her a song. It was totally ripped off from that Vanessa Hudgens song, Baby Come Back, or Baby Come Back to Me. Little funny anecdote. But yeah.
You remember it?
Kind of, not really. And even if I did, I probably would say that exact same answer. But
you
yeah,
released it? Is that on the new album?
No, definitely not. Maybe some things pulled from that, but I played it for this girl at her surprise birthday party and absolutely embarrassed the living hell out of her. But everyone else loved it. And it was the first sign of me being like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like
Did you
embarrass chicks and like make all my friends really happy, you know?
did you
No.
like the stage part of it? Did you like playing in front of people? Is that kind of like what got you into it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the feeling I got from after that, in all seriousness, was just such a overwhelming, joyous
Yeah.
experience. All my friends were there. They were so stoked that I just did this. It was like definitely pretty ballsy for like a fifth grader,
I wouldn't have done that. That's impressive.
Yeah, I even stopped it in the middle, like, and tried to rip a guitar solo. Not like stopped playing the keys, ripped the guitar solo.
Oh yeah.
It was not good, but but it was the first step, and then became obsessed and started writing music. And my parents were going through a divorce at the time, and it was really hard on me. And so that's when it became really, really my outlet for kind of my therapy.
Totally.
And because that was kind of my experience, like getting started with music, that's always carried a lot of weight for me in terms of using music for the power of love and connection and therapeutic reasons.
And especially at a younger age, it's such a good way to kind of be able to go through your thoughts from a little bit of a third person perspective and not feel too attached.
Yeah.
I think most people find that when they're writing music, it almost feels like you're stepping outside of yourself a little bit, and you can kind of analyze things a little bit different. I guess a little bit different. Did you feel that same sort of connection when you were acting, or did you not have the same sort of release of emotion?
No, yeah, I definitely. I felt with acting, it was really fun and extremely rewarding. I think it taught me a totally different lesson of like perseverance through a lot of like failure and a lot of rejection, which I think you get in music, but it's a little bit different of a way. And so with acting, it taught me a lot. It was a very like growing experience. I acted until I was 18 when I went to college. But music had so much more power and a hold on me, really. Something that I could never give up, and I've given up acting, so.
When did you decide that was it? I'm going to drop everything and that's going to be what I'm going to focus on?
Yeah. So basically a year after I started writing music, so after I started, writing music for that girl and writing music basically every day for that year, I was at a random benefit, Yoko Ono benefit event I was really outgoing as a young kid, befriended this guy who owned a gallery in Beverly Hills. He was hosting this Yoko Ono event, and Mike Garson, who is David Bowie's piano player, he was the guest performer. I went up to him after he performed and just started talking to him about like music and everything. He was like, "Where's your mom at? Like, I want to talk to your mom." And I brought her to my mom, and he was like, "I want to teach your son. Like, he seems to really get what music is about." And he was like, "I've only taught like 2 other kids before." And I was like, "Oh, like
he clearly knew what he was doing, though."
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play it for him or anything. I was just really talking to him about like how, just like I was saying, like music served as like this great therapy for me, and like I think he was pretty impressed by that from a young kid, this 11-year-old. So he took me under his wing and really, really became my mentor, and still is to this day.
That's so crazy.
And so he's taught me everything I know basically. And it really was in that moment kind of where I realized like, wow, like if this is someone of such high esteem in my, my regard, that kind of wants to take me under, like, wow, okay, then maybe I do get this, and it became a reality.
How far along were you as a piano player pre-meeting him?
Not that far. In terms of like chops, like my grandpa taught me the blues scale right away, because he understood that that's what I wanted to be playing, the Beatles and, Ray Charles stuff. And so learned the blues scale, and I started getting my chops up pretty quickly. Like when I started studying with Mike, I could play, but I didn't know what a sustain pedal was. I didn't have any technical training really, because I wasn't pulling anything from my classical, year of training. So it really was just all by ear, lots of just messing around. So yeah, not amazing, but could hang.
But at a point where he could really teach you as a piano player, not just learning how to play piano.
Exactly. Like I was able to, I didn't go in there and embarrass myself, like to put it very plainly.
So I'm curious, just going back a little bit, if you were talking to somebody who was where you were at the time when your parents were splitting up and you were finding music,
Yeah.
what would you tell somebody who's in that situation right now on how to kind of start finding it and being able to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes in so many different shapes and forms, I
Yeah.
feel like for different people. But I mean, I, I think what was the most valuable for me is that like I wasn't doing it for anyone else except myself.
Mm.
I wasn't doing it for my mom. I wasn't doing it for any person, there wasn't like even a goal in mind really. It just was messing around and there were no wrong or right answers, just writing, spitting stuff out, writing it down on pen and paper. And I think whatever works for different people
Yeah.
is what's going to do it. But I mean,
Totally.
that's a good place to start, is just get in a little keyboard, get in
Yeah.
a cheap guitar, anything. And even if you just pick it up and it's not a passion of yours or whatever, like it can still serve as like such a therapy. And I think everyone can have a little bit of that in their lives.
I like what you said about there being no wrong answers as well, because I feel like, especially when you're in a position that you were in, or whatever version somebody has of that situation, there's enough, there's enough trauma, there's enough shit going on that you have
Yeah.
to think about, that when you hold your instrument and you get into that place, you really don't have to have any right answers.
Yeah.
Everything works, and you can't have that judgment there. And really, to learn anything, I think you kind of be able to have to drop the judgment, at least to an extent that you can try things that are new and kind of go further than maybe staying on the same whatever 5 chords forever, because you can't
Yeah.
get them perfect.
Yeah. No, I think that's like the most valuable lesson for any musician and anyone to
Mhm.
learn really.
Yeah.
It's all trial and error. And also like we've all as musicians gotten in those phases and those funks where we constantly are comparing our work to other people and that like
Totally.
what we want to aspire to be. And then we kind of confine ourselves to boxes
Yeah.
sometimes. And I think those are like the worst periods for artists a lot of the time, because once you get in the rhythm of something you love doing, I think it just becomes so much more important that like you're doing what you love and not trying to do what other people will love.
Totally.
So
So let's kind of fast forward a little bit.
yeah.
You came out to LA and kind of fell away from acting and fell into music.
Yeah.
And then when did the Pink Slips pop up?
Yeah, so the Pink Slips started in my senior year of high school. One of my best friends and the lead singer of the Pink Slips, Grace McKagan, she just started writing music with another couple friends of ours, knew I was a piano player and singer, and just like invited me over one day and started making music. And her dad, who's also a musician, was out on tour, and I think she sent him the song, and I think he was with like the Motley Crue guys and
Oh
all these
shit.
guys. And
What a small
they
tour.
apparently all, yeah, right. Small tour. It was like the Kings of Chaos thing, the
That's
big
crazy.
legends of rock getting together and doing stuff in like South America and whatnot.
Okay.
But but yeah, basically
That's so
I got
sick.
the seal of approval from all these dope rock guys that I love. And we just started jamming and it just never stopped. So we've been making music for almost 10 years now.
Wild.
Yeah.
So you guys, there's definitely probably a level of comfort when you guys get in the room. That takes nothing but time.
Absolutely. I'm like, we've gone through a ton of different members, and
Yeah.
different lineups. I'm the only person that's stuck around, from the
Wild.
very beginning. And so me and Grace have a really great bond. And
Totally.
yeah, it's been an awesome evolution in terms of music and also just growth and maturing. It's been really fun.
So when did you guys start touring? At what point were you at when the tours started happening?
Yeah, so we did our first tour. It was actually a UK tour. So that was a pretty awesome experience to like very first tour,
Yeah.
going to a different country. We went over there. It was 2015. So it was about 2 years after we had started making music. We played Download Festival over there, which is kind of like a like rock to heavy rock festival, all around Europe, and those are pretty crazy. So at
I
like
can't imagine.
19 experiencing that, I was like, whoa, like this is, it had never been more, like full on answered to me that I was going to be a musician and that's like what I want to do
Than that,
until
yeah.
I got to do that first tour.
It's gotta be addicting.
Yeah, it was truly addicting, and getting dirty and riding in a bus or van, and you grow so close with the people you're with. So
Wow.
yeah, so that was the first, and then since then we've had the opportunity to go on a ton of really really cool bills with Alice in Chains and Guns N' Roses, and
Holy
it's been
shit.
been awesome.
So what's it like to be on a bill like that when you're with some of these people that I'm sure you grew up on?
Yeah.
Is that like reassuring that you're doing the right thing, or does it make you want to kind of go even further and make you more hungry?
It's a little bit of both. It definitely gives you that assurance,
Yeah.
that okay, like I'm doing something right if I'm doing
Totally.
these awesome things, and then you reflect on, okay, where I've come from and how far you've gotten in the last whatever 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's extremely assuring in that sense. However, there is kind of that sense of like when you're on stage and you're the first of 3 acts, and the last one's Guns N' Roses or something,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, okay, like there's a lot more to do and a
Yeah.
lot more to go. And this shows me how much and how important it is to just grind your ass off, and really do it
Totally.
so committedly, every single day, and treat it as, your job, but
Yeah.
also,
Is what you love.
yeah, it's what you love.
So you clearly like what you do, considering you're doing it again, but by yourself this time.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your solo project. It's this crazy name that you thought up.
Yeah, insane name, right? I owe it to my mom for thinking of that one. But yeah, it's just under Trent Peltz, and
I love it.
yeah, basically, I mean, I've always written music. Like my solo music has always been at the core of my artistry, no matter who I've been writing with or what groups I've played with. And so I've always wanted to do this, but basically just never really had the time to in college. Thought I would, and just didn't end up doing it.
Life happens.
Life happens. And so when COVID hit, I was actually living at home because of COVID. And my grandpa, who's always been super supportive, he was living there as well. And he basically said, like, okay, well, we're going to be stuck here for a long time. Like, what music equipment do you need and recording equipment do you need to make and finally like record your album while we're going to be stuck here? And so he bought me, I literally wrote a list, and he bought me every single thing I needed to make a home studio, like a nice setup.
Yeah.
And it was just the nicest thing that anyone had ever done for me. And I really started just grinding, honing in on my sound that I'd been trying to find for a long time.
Totally.
And just really sent it, and was working really, really late nights every day, for a long time. Kind of pulling from all the different phases of my songwriting,
Yeah.
And putting this concept album together,
Cool, man.
which basically reads like a story, and it's
Can you
I'm
say
really
what
proud
it's
of it.
called?
Yeah, it's called Crossing Bridges. There's a song on the album called Crossing Bridges, so title track.
How many songs?
It's 11 songs.
Beautiful.
Yeah, with
That's
two like instrumental interludes.
I think that's perfect because that's like a good amount. It's enough to be an album, but it's also digestible.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I like the like 11 to 13 songs. I think that's like the perfect amount to have on an album.
Same. I'm right there with you. I commend the people who put out 40, 50 song albums for sure. But
oh God,
crazy.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So where are you at as far as feeling like you found your sound? You were saying that was something you were trying to hone in during COVID when your grandpa got you the gear. Do you think you found it, or do you think that's something that you're still kind of progressively getting to?
Yeah, I think I could never possibly say, even if I'm 70 years old, that I have found my sound entirely, just because, every artist I've ever loved and I look up to, history shows that, people are constantly evolving as artists, as human beings. That inspires the artistry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, even I'm working on writing kind of the next album right now, and even that has kind of a slightly new sound. So I would say for what this album and what I wanted it to be, and what I got into the rhythm of doing, totally found the sound for that. But I think every album will sound a little bit different, and that's kind of just life.
I'm excited to hear it, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked for you to hear it, bro.
It's going to be fun. And like I was saying at the beginning, which I don't think I really said well, is from the music I've heard from you, from the way you present yourself, you're very consistent. You seem like your goal every day, and this is again from my perspective, is to enjoy whatever you're doing. How did you find that? Because you were saying that this all kind of came out of a darker situation. How did you find the light in all this stuff? How did you find yourself to be such a positive person?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. So it also kind of derives from that really dark period in my life. So my parents' divorce was an extremely vicious one. There was a lot of hate involved, a lot of just animosity, and lawsuit after lawsuit after just back and forth, just kind of a revenge situation. It lasted like 7 years until it was fully settled. So that took a huge toll on me. My dad was living in Florida. I was with my mom out here. Didn't really know what my dynamic was with either of my parents. Yeah. So that had a lot of weight on me. Music was really my only release. And what I learned from that is kind of what not to do and how not to let really, really, really tough, hard situations just totally take over your life. And also like probably the biggest thing it taught me that contributes the most to my like personality and just like trying to be as optimistic and positive as possible all the time is this feeling of like never having regrets. I think less so in like the YOLO way,
Totally,
but much more so in the sense of like you have to be here in the present, you know, and like you can't do anything whatsoever about something that's happened, before. Absolutely. And so I think just taking every day as it comes and, being excited and looking forward to the future and that, if you have a bad day, the next day can be 10 times better if you make it.
Yeah,
so
it's up to you.
Yep. So that's really, really what it comes down to.
Kind of to wrap this up, what would you tell somebody? I know we said before what you would tell somebody in that situation. What would you tell somebody who found their way out of the situation like you did and now wants to start their career? What is the best thing that they could be doing in order to get their feet kind of planted in the ground? How did you start?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do it is try to meet as many people as possible, and not in the schmoozy, like networking way necessarily. It's all networking, but in the sense that like the more people you meet, the more opportunities you have to grow, put yourself in, uncomfortable and out of your comfort zone situations. Absolutely. And also like the more people you meet, the more perspectives you gain, about the industry or a person's playing style. And I think like that has contributed to my growth as a person and as an artist, hands down more than anything. It's why I chose not to go to music school for college, so I could be around new and different perspectives. Interesting. I think that grew me in ways that I could never even put into words.
Totally. So really just being as diverse in your possibilities. Do as much as you can to see as much as possible and as many different perspectives as possible.
Absolutely.
I love it, man.
And practice every day. I think
practice. If you guys see this kid play piano or sing, you'll understand what practice can do to you. It really does make the difference. It does everything. And it also gets you to a point where you can have fun every fucking time you play your instrument.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's at the end of the day what it's all about.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on.
My boy.
Let's tell everybody one more time. His album is coming out. His debut album on his solo project is coming out April 8th.
April 8th. Yeah.
And I'm so excited to listen. Go pre-save. Go tell your friends. Go tell your friends' moms. Go tell your friends' dads. They need to know. This man's going to blow the fuck up. And we're all ready for it.
Thank you, brother.
for coming on, dude.
Dude.
It was a pleasure to have you.
All right. I'm Trent Peltz, and this is An Experiment.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you, dude.
The experience is the experiment.